Well, Shabbat Shalom. I just want to welcome everyone that has joined today to the Sabbath conference call. This is Barbara, and I'm serving as one of your hosts today. And today is the 29th day of the 10th month. It's the fourth Sabbath. Tomorrow we'll have a new moon call. I want to announce to everybody that's on the line with us today. And we just want to welcome everybody, all our family and friends that are here, so many of you, and it means so much to me because this time of year, so much of the paganism is going on, and so it's so nice to have close fellowship with others that believe in the Father's feast. And for more information about the Creator's calendar and his feast days, I invite you to go to the website, lunarsabbathday.com. It's a great source of information about the Father's calendar. And there's videos there and articles, and you can scroll down to the bottom of the events page and see how to get in touch with us for Sabbath and new moons, because we do fellowship together and we invite you to come join us. So today our discussion in the original timekeeping system, the Creator's calendar, is we're going to be discussing a false timekeeping system. And you can see on the screen it says Saturn, the pagan god of time, old father time, and the child victim is baby New Year. Well, we're all surrounded by what's going on in the world we're in. This is 2019 right now. And we're hearing everyone saying Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, but they have no idea about the paganisms of Christmas, and maybe they don't know about Kronos and Father Time and the child victims that were from paganism. So I'm sure many people don't know, or they would stop keeping those kind of feasts. So today we're going to be going over an article that's also on the website, and this article is The Origin of Saturn, and it's on our website on the articles page. So, okay, we're going to go over to there. Well, really, I wanted to go quickly to, anybody can look up Wikipedia here, and it will say that New Year started way back in Mesopotamia, as far back as we know, at Tower of Babel and all that. But we know that there was the Julian calendar, and then the Council of Nicaea, and the Gregorian calendar instituted January 1st as New Year's Day. And although most Catholic countries adopted the Gregorian calendar almost immediately, it was only gradually adopted among Protestant countries. And so that's why we are focused on the Father's calendar, and we're all trying and celebrating getting away from the Gregorian calendar and looking up at the calendar that's in the heavens. And there's quite a few articles you can look up just on the web about the paganism and the ancient customs of New Year's and how it all began. Like this article says, Mesopotamia, over 4,000 years ago, the arrival of New Year. Well, we know in Exodus 12, verse 1 and 2, Jehovah says, this is the beginning of the year for you. And he was talking about the month of Passover, the first month of the year. So that is really when our year begins, doesn't it? So we're going to jump over here to the document, The Origin of Saturn. It's by Lorraine Bornhold and her daughter, Laura Lee. And it's a good article, 12 pages. We're just going to go over a few pages because we have covered this before. Last week we talked about the Christmas Mass, and we've talked about Saturnalia before. The counterfeit Saturday and Sunday are both counterfeit Sabbaths. They are not the true Sabbath of creation. And so we've learned about counterfeits by practicing and looking at the real calendar in the heavens. So we know the word Saturday means Saturn's Day. Okay, we'll go ahead and maybe read a little bit of this, and we're going to skip around on this article and go down to New Year's Day.
In my reading, I will pause and give the footnote. I won't read the footnote, but I'll just mention the footnote number. And those that want to see the links to the reference information can go to the website and read it there, and I highly encourage you to do that. Saturn, as a god with his accompanying day of worship, originated in that great post-flood apostasy which culminated in the heaven-daring rebellion of the Tower of Babel. When God confounded the language of the rebels, and they scattered to inhabit various parts of the earth, the idolatrous religion, exalting Nimrod as a god, went with them. While it entered a new hidden phase, the identifying hallmarks of this gross apostasy were still present and were ever a temptation to the people of God, leading them into idolatry. The foundation of rebellion thus laid in antiquity holds strong today in the counterfeit lowercase seventh day, Sabbath, that is, Saturday. The Greek Kronos and the Roman Saturn were the same god, footnote 26. As god of the harvest, he is typically represented as holding a scythe. Kronos Saturn was the god of time as well, and as such he was also frequently shown holding babies, footnote 28. Saturn's chief holiday was Saturnalia. In December, the path of the sun stands still in the southern sky for 5 days. Ancient priests told the superstitious people that the sun was dying and must be propitiated with costly sacrifices. Saturn, as the god of time, was implored to continue time. The people were thus compelled to offer the things most precious to them, their children, in order to prolong time. Saturn, god of time and god of harvest, reaped his harvest of souls in the burned bodies of these young children.
Yeah, that's all pretty ugly to read about, but when you look up any of the history about Saturn, they did do the child sacrifice, and in mythology, Kronos ate his own children, and if you're looking at this on YouTube, you can pause for the links. I'll put them below also, and the document is also on our website. But, okay, let's see, where do I need to go back to here? Okay, well, sorry for scrolling so much here, but we're going to go maybe here. I wanted to go more. We know all about the child sacrifice and the Baal worship. It all came from Nimrod and Saturn. And we have talked already a lot about the Christmas and all of the honoring Nimrod and Saturn and the whole 5 days of Saturnalia that people are keeping as Christmas, and we're not keeping that. We want to go forward today and talk about the New Year's baby and Kronos. Did you hear that? Because if you've ever noticed, a time clock is always called Kronos. It's about time. And remember, Daniel 7:25 says that he will think to change times and laws. So that's what we're discussing today, is about time, and Saturn is even called Father Time. So here we go, a little bit more about New Year's, maybe that you didn't know.
The imagery of Saturn, an evil, child sacrifice demanding old man, carries on in modern society in two more guises. Every December, Saturn, the god of time, reappears as Father Time. The child victim is Baby New Year. Notice that in this modern cartoon of Old Father Time with Baby New Year, all of the characteristics of Saturn are in place. The scythe, the watch as a symbol of time, and of course the child victim. The smile behind Father Time's beard makes this seem like an innocent, fun, symbols that contain no reference to evil, just a fun way of representing the passage of time.
Okay, and then for those of you on the phone, there was the baby, Father Time, with a smile, which I hadn't noticed that before, and the sickle and the clock, the things that he just read about. It's Father Time, marching on. Okay, and here we go, a little bit more.
A far more chilling representation of Father Time with Baby New Year can be found in this illustration from the 19th century. Father Time, Saturn, as the god of time, is standing in front of a large clock, holding his scythe. The old years, 1886 through 1888, are passing away as full-grown bodies wrapped in burial shrouds. The new year, 1889, is coming in as a young child. While the picture is dark, quite dark, light from the fire is lighting the new boy, while on either side are swirls of smoke from the burning fire at his feet, below the view of the picture. Notice that the New Year's still to come, that's 1890 through 1892, are portrayed as child sacrifice victims, all of whom are heavily veiled. All of the grotesque elements of this hideous god are contained in this one innocent illustration.
Okay, now I'll move the picture.
That quote, innocent illustration.
Sorry. While he was reading, you couldn't see these children that had those years above their head showing, and the fire and the smoke. But there is the child with 1889 there in the front. Over here is 88, already in a shroud, death shroud. The future children, 1890, veiled. And it's a pretty grotesque picture if you actually know what it's talking about, if you study the paganism of this ugly Kronos, Father Time, and the Grim Reaper. But I don't want to show the picture of Grim Reaper, so we'll read a little and I'll try to skip over the picture. I don't like those kind of pictures.
The other way in which Saturn's imagery exists in modern society is as the Grim Reaper. The Grim Reaper is typically seen only around Halloween. He's widely understood as a symbol of death itself. Very few, if any, in modern society have recognized in either the Grim Reaper or Father Time the pagan connection to the cruelest, most evil of all the gods. However, an ancient would immediately recognize both as being none other than Saturn, because the emblems which identify Saturn are the same which identify Old Father Time and the Grim Reaper, scythes and something to mark the passage of time.
Oops. Trying to skip down. Oops.
As Christianity was absorbed into pagan Rome, both Christian and paganism combined to form a new amalgamated religion. This new religion, headed by the papacy, retained the pagan celebrations, now christened with new Christianized names. Christianity was very quick to immerse itself in paganism, which did not change its religious practices. As early as the 3rd century, Tertullian lamented how quick the Christians of his day were to give up their pure faith, while the pagans remained very faithful to their religion.
Okay. Yeah, okay, and then there's just a little indent here. The quote is, he is saying, by us who are strangers to Sabbaths, new moons, and festivals, once acceptable to God, the Saturnalia feasts are being celebrated and carried on, but where are our feasts we used to keep? Everybody's forgotten them. So that's what that quote is about, I guess, and I will have Brother Pete go ahead and read the quote, and we'll just read a little bit more and let everybody else have a chance.
By us who are strangers, so this is a quote of Tertullian. By us who are strangers to Sabbaths and new moons and festivals, once acceptable to God, the Saturnalia, the feasts of January, the Brumalia, and the Saturnalia are now frequented. Gifts are carried to and fro. New Year's Day presents are made with din, and sports and banquets are celebrated with uproar. Oh, how much more faithful are the heathen to their religion, who take special care to adopt no solemnity from the Christians.
Football and sports, all that's just...
Oops, I'm hearing somebody talking. Maybe how about if we just stop there for a minute, and everybody can, if you've been thinking there's something you wanted to interject. In the older times, the Grim Reaper and Kronos and Father Time, they would have recognized it as Saturn, but nowadays people don't recognize that as Saturn. And let me get that interrupt here again.
Hey, Barb, can you back it up just a paragraph? I have something to add. Yeah, back it up just a paragraph up. Yeah, right there.
Okay.
It says, how quick the Christians of his day were to give up their pure faith, while the pagans remained very faithful to their religion. Yeah. I read something today, and I wasn't able to share this because I wasn't able to, anyways. But Natural News, Mike, the health ranger, he has an article out that Joe Biden calls for Christians to be added to the terror watch list for opposing the LGBT abuse of children.
Wow.
And he said this in a town hall, and he said that believers in Yeshua, for opposing the radical agenda, they need to give it up. Or if they don't give this up, they're going to be on a government terror watch list. And so when you read that, it triggered, how many people are willing to go along with that? And even into, the pagan roots. It's still here today.
That's right. Thank you, Gail. Yeah, how many are going to give up their pure faith? And as we know, the Bible, Leviticus, all the stories, Sodom and Gomorrah and all the way through, and Romans 1 about, the homosexuality, and that we're not even to associate and we're not to go along with it. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, it's the radical left that has this hate group, and they're pushing for anyone. And so they're coming after the Christians. They're coming after the believers. And if you don't give up your faith, and if you don't give up what you believe, you're going to be labeled on a terror list. That's what he is saying if he is president.
Okay.
So, yikes. Okay, but anyways, I'll let you get back, but I needed to say that.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, and we're sorry your chorus nugget got cut a little short today, but we still get to hear the story about Joseph for those of you that weren't here. But what you're saying is another form of child sacrifice, offering our children up to this gay agenda. It's everywhere, and not even be allowed to talk about it in churches or anywhere. It's another form of child sacrifice. So anybody else have a comment about the Grim Reaper, Kronos, the child sacrifice, Saturn, all about the Father Time, the pagan Father Time, not the real one, not the creator? Any comments?
This is Ellen. I was going to say, I was just like everybody else is today. Until you know the truth, you do celebrate Christmas and you do celebrate New Year's. For years, New Year's was a big thing, and Christmas was a big thing. But, you know, when you learn the truth, and it's funny, you know, when you talk to people, and, you know, I had my sister question me 2 days ago. She says, you don't celebrate Christmas, do you? And I said, no. And she says, well, why? And I said, because it's a pagan feast. She said, well, you don't believe in the birth of Christ? You know, that's the way she throws it back at me. And so people are so in tune that Christmas is all about the birth of Christ, not realizing behind it all is a pagan, you know, symbolism. And so if you are against it, just like what Gail was saying, they're going to come after you because you're against something that everybody believes.
I can hardly hear her.
I know, and I have people say Merry Christmas to me, or then we were with the children, and I said, no, they don't keep Christmas, they keep Hanukkah. And I said, and we believe in Yeshua, you know. But, yeah, I think there will be a persecution for us that are not believing in those books. We're hearing somebody trying to come on, and it's not. I'm not hearing you. Sound pretty jumbled. Who's ever talking? Well, we need
Barbara,
to be yes?
Oh, hi. This is Charlotte, and I just...
Charlotte, yeah, there's something else coming on. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I don't know.
Go ahead, Charlotte. Whoever was on, it wasn't coming in clear. We're sorry.
I just wanted to make a comment about Tertullian's quote there regarding sports and banquets are celebrated, you know, because usually around these holiday times is when all the, you know, football games and all this kind of thing are going on. And
right.
And it just reminded me of, you know, back in the Romans, you know, old times that, you know, they would come and get together in their arenas, you know, and do all sports things and hurting people and, you know, and things like that. And so, yeah, and so how it relates to Kronos and his time, because he's stealing all these people's time away from God to know God and all this.
Oh, that's really good, Charlotte. Yeah, he's stealing everyone's time away from God. That's very good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi. Oh, this is David. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Speak a little louder, maybe, or in your phone more.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me better now?
I'm hearing pretty good, but I think it's just my computer don't have a good volume. Go ahead.
Gotcha. I just wanted to say that I know it's very fascinating, the early church period and the history of, you know, the Greeks and the Romans, and but you know, particularly when you're talking about some of these characters, like the deity, you know, Kronos. Kronos was actually a Canaanite ruler. People may not know that, but so he was actually the ruler of Byblos, which is in Tyre, which is now, you know, what we would call like modern-day Lebanon area. And, you know, a lot of these characters have a much older history, I think, than a lot of folks want to give it credit for. So it is very interesting how Rome and the Greeks really adopted so readily a lot of the mythologies of these areas and sort of, you know, I mentioned in our last call about, you know, Mithra, because I think we were focusing more on, you know, Nimrod and Tammuz. And really, one of the things that's interesting is a lot of times these names change, but the characters don't.
Right.
In this case, Kronos has been pretty consistent, but he was actually a Canaanite ruler of Byblos. And that's, I think, particularly interesting because of the interaction with the Father's people and these people in the land. So that's actually a much more rich history if you research into that a little deeper. I think you'll find there's a lot more interesting things going on there with the Canaanites in these areas.
Okay, thank you, Brother David. And I think in the beginning of this article we kind of skipped over that Saturn was the god to Rome and Kronos was the Greek god, but you're saying he goes way back to the Canaanites. That's interesting.
Yeah, he was actually a ruler of Byblos. And, you know, Byblos is right near Tyre. And if you think about, you know, the king of Tyre and Solomon and the interaction there, It's very, very fascinating, very rich history. The Egyptians first encountered Byblos, and so they referred to everything as Byblos historically, whereas Tyre was actually kind of secondary to them in their understanding. So the ships they referred to as, ships of Byblos. They were a very dominant force in the area. And, he basically, Kronos was deified, as so many of these Canaanite rulers were, and so many of the holidays and customs and traditions of the elders came out of these Canaanite factions that worshipped these pagan gods and rulers.
Thank you. Okay, well, anybody else have a comment about Kronos, Grim Reaper, Father Time, Saturn, the child victim, New Year's baby?
I was trying to understand Tertullian's comment here, and it's wrapped in several layers, so it's a little difficult to unravel. But I do notice that he is stating, which is very interesting for us, that he's recognized that in the past, Sabbaths, new moons, and festivals were observed, which points, in fact, Tertullian is writing in the 3rd century. The Julian calendar comes in around 43 BC, before Yeshua. So anyway, he's still looking through that time when Israel was keeping Sabbaths, new moons, and festivals. That's all I'm saying.
Right, and that, let's see, I can go down and get that 43. Here it is, Tertullian. This is the book, if anybody wants to look up quoted from Heslop there. So, yeah, okay. Yeah, it is interesting. That was 300 years after the Julian calendar, and they took new moon out and all that. So there were still people that were remembering Sabbath and new moon days. It's very important to the Creator's calendar to even know that history was still around, isn't it?
I'd actually like to see that quote.
Okay.
No. I mean, not in the English.
Oh, you want to go look it up?
I'd love to see it in the original language, and the reason is the way things are phrased, the way things are translated can affect how you're hearing it.
Okay. So, we're getting, let's see, we're going to skip over the Christmas stuff. We've covered that enough times. And we'll go back to, and then we'll have more time for discussion if you're thinking of something else. So maybe we'll start here and finish. There's only one more page left.
Okay. The pagans were ignorant of the true God of heaven. They practiced these rituals honoring Nimrod because they did not know any better. Can Christians today make the same claim? Scripture teaches, quote, the times of this ignorance God winked at, but now commandeth all men everywhere to repent. Footnote 44. To know that Christmas is a pagan holiday, to know that the modern rituals are identical with the ancient rituals that honored Saturn Nimrod, and yet claim exemption from sin because one knows, is extremely inconsistent. There are many devout Christians who do not celebrate Easter or Christmas because of their pagan origins. There are others who do not celebrate birthdays either because they know that the celebration of one's own birthday is the highest satanic holiday of that year, footnote 45. Yet, through ignorance, these same sincere people worship on other pagan holy days. It does not matter whether the day of the week is the first day or the seventh day if a pagan calendar is being used to keep track of time. It is calculating pagan worship days. The very strongest deceptions are those closest to the truth. Saturday, the seventh day of the pagan calendar, is assumed to be the biblical Sabbath, but it is not. In a complicated twist, Satan has produced Sunday as the counterfeit worship day. The purpose of this double deception is to deceive all who truly desire to honor their Maker, either by worshiping on, quote, the Lord's Day, or on the seventh day Sabbath. In this way, attention is diverted from the truth that Saturday itself is counterfeit, which honors the cruelest, most bloodthirsty of all the gods, Saturn. Honor and worship is thus stolen from the Creator and given to his enemy. End of the reading.
Thank you, Brother Pete. And I don't know if I agree with everything. Of course, we don't in every article about birthday. I don't know if that's what people believe, but I don't want to say that I agree with everything. But we like to read these articles because they bring out a lot of the history and a lot of fact. And this article was good, all about counterfeit. And it's such a perfect counterfeit because I grew up knowing that Sunday was the counterfeit Sabbath. I knew it my whole life because we were taught Saturday was the Sabbath. But it's really a double counterfeit. But I like what it said about it's not a time of ignorance. Here we go. Over to Wikipedia. Anybody can go over there and look up New Year's Day. And it says came from pre-Julian calendar. And then you go further down. It talks about Mesopotamia. I mean, it's not a time of ignorance. You can look up anything on the Internet and know that New Year's Day is based on paganism and pagan gods. So any comments, anybody? We're at the end of the reading, and we can have discussion about the reading, and then after the recording, we can open up the floor for any topic on the calendar. But what about Saturn being counterfeit, Saturday, Kronos, Father Time, any of that?
Well, I just wanted to make a comment about the birthday thing because the reason why that's the highest is because it's about self.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so
Agreed.
That's fine.
Satan has us looking at ourselves.
Right.
Puffing ourselves up.
Yeah, and there's only a few birthdays mentioned in the Bible, and one of them was in today's Torah study. The Pharaoh's birthday, the butler and the baker had to go to prison, and another one was, I think, Nebuchadnezzar. There's only a couple birthdays mentioned in the Bible. But,
Herod's birthday.
And Herod, yes, Herod, thank you. And Job talks about the day of his children, like it's a birthday gathering, a good time. And because we don't do Christmas and all those other things, we do special. I do. I mean, it's a personal thing, special thing for children. But that wasn't really going to be the topic today. But go ahead and we can discuss it. That's fine. Whatever anybody wants to talk about, that's okay. Thank you for your comments.
Well, I've got a little comment on the birthday thing. It is a personal thing. For me, I give acknowledge to the Creator for the gift of life. And I thank Him when I do a birthday card to my grandchildren or to my family members or to my friends. I always give the credit to Jehovah, because He gave them the breath of life and that He has a plan for them in their life. You know, Michael Rood just put out an email a couple of days ago on missed opportunities. And he was invited in his community to a ho-ho party. And he thought, oh, I can't go to that. And the more he thought about it, he thought, no, I'm going to get my gear up and my Hanukkah stuff, and I'm going to go. And he said he had to do 3 errands, and he went to businesses, and he was able to share the story of the Messiah and a correct understanding. I think so many times that as we come out into the wilderness, sometimes we isolate ourselves purposely and intentionally, and we miss opportunities with our family. They're not offenses. For me, it is an opportunity to give to my family and not bring division and not bring separation, so that I can plant a seed. Those seeds are going to come forth one day, and they're going to know that their grandma and that their friend is praying for them, that we have a creator, and for every time that there is a truth, there's a counterfeit. There's counterfeit currency. We use it every single day. So, as we study these things, it's interesting to know that there is a separation going on. However, the Father gives us opportunities to witness to our family and meet them where they're at. And so that's my take on it. Thank you.
Right. Okay. I agree with you, Gail, totally, because that's what I do too. Is I instead of saying happy birthday, I give blessings to the person and direct them to the Lord, in something that I share with them to take, their mind off of self. And I just think that helps in sharing.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you, Gail, and maybe that was Mary. I'm trying to remember the voice right, but
sorry.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you got on and said something, and I agree with Gail to make special times with our children, because there's so many times we say, no, we don't do that, and we don't do this, but we do have. I have 2 sets of children that keep Hanukkah, and it's been such a joyful time. These kids that are here from Michigan, they have so much joy. I mean, they are happy. They just love everything. They play the games with their mom and daddy, and yet have teaching every day. So it's really a lot of joy, way more joy than that was celebrated in my previous life with our children, that basically only lasted a few hours on one day. Anybody else have a comment? Brother Martin, are you trying to get on, or I can't really see?
No, I was good. I was good. You just brought it up about Job's children celebrating each on their own day. That's all I was going to say a while back.
Yeah. Well, glad you're here, Brother Martin.
And this is Susan, and I agree. I do it with my kids too, because they're not. They just think I'm weird, and getting crazier all the time. So I understand, and I send packages. I don't make a big deal of the date. I say I really don't care. I basically do kind of like Hanukkah, but because I'm outreaching to my neighbors this year, because it's only a year I've been here and not been with kids, I just took them little gifts, and they were in a Christmas bag, because I couldn't find any other bags I could afford that looked festive. And I just took some cookies and put a Bible text and reminded them, that when he came the first time, he blessed several people, but when he comes the second time, he is going to end death, in disease, in abuse, and in violence. And that's going to be the most blessing for all of us. So anyway, I understand that. I get very angry at Satan because he's hurt me and a lot of people in my family and a lot of people that I know. And he's behind all the trafficking and all the abuse and all the LGBT, and we fight not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers in high places. So I am definitely his enemy, as he is mine. He would love to take me out, and I actually return the favor. But I can't do it. But I can fight him, and I can get him off people that I care about. And you, Bob, and Ellie, and all the people that I know personally, but I just extend it to everybody on this call. We need to pray for each other to protect us from the deceptions and the things. It's obvious. Saturnalia was Satan, a form of Satan, you know, and that he would require the sacrifice of people, whether it be virgins or warriors or, most horrible of all, your own children. And I think he's obviously only about stealing, killing, and destroying. So I think he needs to be taken out, and I'm glad I know who's going to be able to do it. So bless y'all. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Susan and Gail and everyone that commented. Any more comments about Saturn or Father Time? And we're going to close the recording, but I want to give you an opportunity if you have something you want to say on the recording to those that will be listening in.
I'll add one more thought here, and it's probably a talk unto itself, but it's the study of Yule, of the Yule log tradition, which I read about it a while back. I do not remember the details, but it was very surprising how deep the traditions in paganism were. Anyway, that's my comment.
Yeah, and the Yule log has to do with witchcraft and everything when you study the... Ooh, I don't like that picture. Okay. When you study the paganism and all that. Okay, well, there's a lot of you here and some of you new, so we're going to close the recording for the ones that are here. Maybe they have a question or comment on another subject. But I want to invite everybody back tomorrow. I'm not sending out invitations. I hope you will come back. We'll be here for the New Moon conference call at the same time, same place. And thank you, everyone. And so blessings, and everyone that's here, please stay around.